Hey there, this is James Wilson with NTV Strength Training Systems, and welcome to another Riding for a Lifetime podcast. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about body position, the concept of body position. What does it really mean, and how it's usually used? It's kind of an incomplete concept that can confuse riders and actually make it harder for them to progress their skills and their performance on the bike. And so one of the things that I really feel is important with what I do is trying to help people understand how to move better off of the bike and then how to apply that better movement to the bike. And so a lot of the stuff that I have people do, in the gym is centered around helping them move better on the bike, developing the general movement patterns that they need, and then trying to help them understand how do I apply this stuff to the bike. And so I feel that in order to help riders optimally do that it's important to understand, like, what does body position mean and how does it apply to what I'm doing in the gym. And then that's going to help you get more out of your training, in the gym and applying it to the bike. And so I wanted to talk about body position. What does it mean and why? Like I said, I think it's a confused term in the mountain biking world. So, nothing really gets thrown around more than that term when you're talking about skills training for mountain biking. But like I said, what does the term really mean? For something that everybody agrees is really important, there's a lot of confusion around it. So, for example, there's a couple different trains of thought on body position, right? So you have, do we want to be in an attack position? An attack position is usually characterized by having the butt back and the chest down low and being kind of like a low, almost kind of like aerodynamic position. Or do you want to be in more of an upright thrown position? Again, there may be different terms that people use to describe these positions, but again, the general position is the same, right? So with the thrown position, we have the chest up and we're sitting back and down, almost kind of like there's a chair behind us that we're sitting in, but the attack position tends to be butt back and chest down. The thrown position tends to be butt down and chest up. Which one is the correct one, right? There's entire, debates about which one's best. And you have schools of training camps that say that one is best, and another one says the other one's the best. So another thing is, where do you want the weight on the bike? Do you want your weight on your feet with little to no weight on your hands, right? The heavy hands, the heavy feet, light hands, or light hands, heavy feet, however it goes, that bit of advice. Or do you want to have weight and pressure through your hands when you're riding? And so again, like, these are two different two different trains of thought on what makes up for quote unquote optimal body position. But a lot of it depends on who you talk to, what system that they are preaching. And so there's a whole industry, the whole skills training industry is out there with, qualified skills instructors from various backgrounds trying to convince people that their version of body position is the best. But, I have come to realize that the whole concept of, especially quote unquote optimal body position, if anyone's trying to sell you optimal body position on the bike, it's kind of a nonsense term. It's incomplete at best. Obviously how you hold yourself on the bike, the position that your body is in, is important, but the idea that there is an ideal body position when riding your bike is, like I said, incomplete at best. The reason that I don't like this term or the discussion around it is because it leads riders into believing that there is a singular ideal body position that they need to try to get into and maintain as much as possible while they're riding. So, again, this idea will work great if you're drilling this stuff in a parking lot, but a parking lot is not the trail. And there's, unfortunately, a lot of things that work well in parking lot drills that don't work very well when you start applying them to the trail. And the problem usually is not user error. The problem is usually that the drills don't really have the carryover to the trail that you would like to think that they would. And so, and again, like trying to get into and maintain ideal body position through various, drills and stuff is kind of one of those things. So on the trail, you are participating in a dynamic relationship between your body, the bike, and the trail. And these three things are rarely static. And even if they are static, they're not static for very long, right? Conditions change all the time. And this means that what constitutes ideal body position is constantly shifting as well. I think that's really the answer. Like, earlier we were discussing some different trains of thought on body position and, the attack versus thrown, light hands, heavy feet versus purposeful pressure through the hands. Who's right? Well, the question is all of them, or the answer is all of them are right. Right? It really depends on the context. Like that's the important thing is what is the context that you are asking about. And then there's going to be again, optimal is going to be different, right? Everybody's body types are different. So like how exactly you're going to position yourself is going to be different from rider to rider. But the basic principles behind where you want to have your weight, kind of how you want to have your body position based on the context that we're talking about is going to be pretty similar from rider to rider. And so it's that context that makes up the ultimate answer to what, ideal body position is. And so, the reality is there is no such thing as ideal body position because riding your mountain bike is a dynamic activity. So for example, let's say that you're riding a section of trail. Like I was out riding today and this exact thing happened, right? You've got a flat section of trail that you're cruising down, and then you hit a bit of a technical rock garden section, and precedes a short climb. So you're cruising along, then you've got a short little rock garden, and then that rock garden leads you into a punchy climb. That's not too long, but definitely a bit of an effort to get up. Okay, so what's the ideal body position for that scenario? And, again, my answer is, well, there isn't one, right? You're going to have to shift your body to meet the demands of the moment. So like when you're on the flat section of trail, like you can be sitting down. If you're standing up, then this is where you would probably have like the light hands, heavy feet thing going on, and you're, maintaining that position while you're pedaling. And then as soon as you get to, or right before you get to the rock garden, though, you're going to need to preemptively shift your weight to your hands, because one of the things that you need to do to get through a rock garden efficiently is be able to weight and unweight the front of your bike, right? You want to unweight the front end or even lift the front end a little bit up in order to float over the rocks and be able to maintain your momentum as much as possible. So you need to preemptively shift your weight forward. You want to have your weight on your hands. So now we go from a light hands, heavy feet to having some purposeful pressure through the hands. And that's obviously going to take some weight off the feet, but we've still got good pressure through our feet as well. And, by doing that, as soon as we hit the first rock in the rock garden, we're able to shift our weight back, which unweights the front end and helps us initiate going through the rock garden. And as we're going through the rock garden, we're going to be performing weight shifts from front to back in order to weight and unweight the front and back of the bike in order to flow through the rocks and trail obstacles as smoothly as possible. And then as you get to the climb, you're going to shift your weight forward into a standing climbing position. And again, now we've got a lot of weight on our hands, and we're having to apply dynamic pressure through the rear wheel as we are climbing. And again, the pressure is going to be contingent on how much traction we need, right? If it's a high traction climb, then you don't really need to create much pressure at all. If it's a low traction, loose climb, then you're going to have to really work to create that pressure through your feet into the rear wheel as you're pedaling up. And so again, as you can see, there was no one answer to that question. Right. So like I said, you've gone from a light hands, heavy feet position to a dynamic position with purposeful pressure through the palms. And then you're finally in an aggressive standing position with your weight slightly forward on your hands. And so the right body position changes depending upon the demands of the moment. And it's not based on what someone's theory of what the optimal body position is going to be, because it's not a static thing, right? But like I said, the reason that I bring this up is because I see riders all the time on the trail who try to ride everything with the same basic body position. And it usually has something to close to like, we're going to try to sit down as much as possible. And if we're going to stand up, we're going to maintain kind of that kind of attack type position with the butt back and the chest down. And again, this helps you bias your weight backwards so that you are more in like the light hands, heavy feet position. But this, again, this is usually due to someone telling them that like this is the optimal body position, and you need to try to maintain this optimal body position as much as possible on the trail. But again, that's not accurate, right? There's several different things that you need to be able to do body position wise, and you need to use them dynamically based on the context. And I think one of the things that really confuses riders is like weight on the hands, right? And so it's okay to stand up, shift your weight forward, have weight on your hands. Again, it's going to be impossible for you to do a front wheel lift or manual or unweight the front end if you don't first have your weight on your hands. You have to have weight on the hands so that you can unweight the front end, which creates the unweighting effect. And so you're going to need to dynamically shift between different positions and body positions on the bike, and that's going to require you to stand up more, right? It's another thing that I really advocate is that people stand up a lot more, don't rely on seated pedaling all the time. So standing up and being not afraid to shift your weight forward and actually have weight on your hands from time to time. Again, depending upon the context of the trail, like that'll open up a whole world of skills opportunities for you if you start to get away from this idea of there being like one optimal body position that you're trying to maintain, and especially like seated pedaling, like really relying on seated pedaling, because when you're sitting down, you're basically in a body position, right? Like seated, being in the seated position places you in a body position, and that is a body position on the bike. And so as long as you're sitting down, you're locked in that body position. And so it's not until you stand up that you're able to move your hips around and actually change your body position to a significant degree. Again, you can like shift forward and backwards on the saddle and make little micro adjustments to your body position, but the basic, the basic part of it is not gonna change. So anyway, so like with all that said, I do think that there are some commonalities to different body positions on the bike that you want to keep in mind. Okay, so one of them is having a strong spine where you avoid leaning over through the low back and the T-spine, like collapsing your chest, and you rely on your hips to shift your weight forward and back. So again, I think that no matter what we're talking about body position wise on the bike, you're going to see a commonality of strong spine position, no matter what, attack position, throwing position, weight forward, weight back, kind of what the specific position is. You are going to see a strong spine with someone hinging at the hips, not at the low back. And so again, this is one of the reasons that the hinge exercises, the deadlift type exercises are so important for us as riders, because the stronger and smoother you can move through that hinge position, the easier time you're going to have applying that to the bike. And so that strong spine is one thing. Another commonality is having your elbows in a strong position, which is somewhere between being pinned to your ribs. We don't want them all the way into the ribs, but we don't want them all the way out to the side, like almost like forming a 90-degree angle with our body. Again, like you'll see with some people who get really caught up in the elbows out advice. So this extreme kind of scarecrow posture where you look like you're a scarecrow hanging off of the sticks there. That's not what we want. So the specific position your elbows should be in is going to change depending upon the context of what's going on, but there's not going to be for the most part the extremes you want to try to avoid, like all the way into like where you're actually like against your ribs, and all the way out where you've got like a 90 degrees between your upper arm and your ribs. Those extremes should be avoided, should be somewhere in between, and really a lot of it is going to come down to palm pressure, right? Like I've done a whole article you can look up on purposeful pressure, or I think it was called "Are We Misapplying Light Hands, Heavy Feet to the Bike?" But it talks about like the line on your palm from like the little webbing between your thumb and your pointer finger, and then it goes to a diagonal line across to the pad that's at the bottom of your hand under your pinky. And so that diagonal line is where you want to feel the pressure of your handlebar. And so you want to feel the pressure throughout that whole pad. And so if your elbows are too far out, you actually start to peel that pinky side pad of your palm up off of the handlebar, so it's no good. And if your elbows are too far in, you start to peel the thumb web side of your palm up. And so again, that's no good. So you want to try to have your elbows position to where you're able to apply good pressure throughout that entire line on your palm. And so that's going to dictate what is optimal elbow position, is what elbow position is allowing you to apply that pressure properly through your palms. And again, that's a dynamic fluid thing. But again, that elbow position is somewhere in that general area is something you're going to see again. No matter what specific body position someone's in, that'll be a commonality, is that elbow position will be somewhere between the ribs and extreme out, and really focus on trying to create good pressure through the palms into the handlebars. And then finally, the feet, right? You want to have your feet in a balanced position. So this is going to be a midfoot position where you're able to create balance between the front and back of your foot. And so if you are more towards the ball of your foot, you're creating this forward toe tipping pressure that's creating an unbalanced position for your foot. So that's your body's having to compensate for that in various ways. And so by using a midfoot position, it allows you to more easily shift your weight forward and backward depending upon the needs of the moment, without committing you too much to one or the other, right? So because like the answer is, if my toes are pointed too far down naturally, well, now I have to drop my heel in order, because there are times on the trail where I need that pressure to be more down into the pedal. So again, like going downhill, common advice of like drop the heels, that comes because we're unbalanced towards the toes. So we have to drop the heels to try to like create a better position, but we're really committed now, right? We overcommit. We're either overcommitted to the toes or overcommitted to the heel, as opposed to being able to shift easily between front and back, which is what you are able to achieve with a midfoot position. So, if you have good spine, elbow, and foot position, then your body can act in a dynamic and fluid way to meet the needs of the moment. But unfortunately, your average rider is not able to bring that to the trail. Most riders are stiff through their hips, and so they bend too much through their low back and their spine. A lot of riders have handlebars that are too wide, and it forces their elbows out into an unnaturally wide position that actually makes it difficult for them to create good pressure through their hands into the handlebars. And they're perched on the balls of their feet, or else at least have the weight biased towards the ball of the feet. So again, if you're if this is one or more of these things are describing you on the bike, then you don't see a strong athletic body when you're looking at someone who has one or more of these things that are compromised. Instead, you see a compromised, unbalanced body. And a lot of times that is behind the struggles that riders have when they're trying to find flow on the trail and really enjoy their riding, right? When you got that flow going, just like that's the best thing. Like that's the thing that we're looking for over and over on the trail. And it's hard to find that flow when you are in a compromised, unbalanced body position, because your body's just unbalanced and compromised, right? And so this leads people, like being in that position though, that's what leads riders to start looking. They can't find flow. They feel unbalanced on the trail. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong. There must be a body position that I'm missing. Let me research what is optimal body position. And then that's what starts this whole cycle of, oh, this person says that this is the best body position, so I need to try to be in this body position as much as possible and try to avoid these other body positions that aren't as optimal. And again, that's what starts this whole cycle of trying to use the same body position for everything on the trail. So I truly believe that a lot of the demand for skills training out there is really created by riders being placed in these compromised, unbalanced positions on the bike, and through like their lack of athleticism and also the bad advice from the cycling industry when it comes to equipment. So again, if you're bringing mobility and strength issues to the bike, and then you're on a bike that the cycling industry has put you in a bad position, you've got really wide handlebars, you're perched on the balls of your feet, right? Like these things are going to make it difficult for you to apply strong, balanced movement to the bike. But if you do put your body in a strong, balanced position, then it will naturally figure out a lot of things on its own, right? Our bodies are amazing learning machines. We just need to give them the right context to learn in. Okay, so again, the take-home message here is don't get caught up in trying to find and maintain the quote-unquote right body position, because the right body position doesn't exist outside of the context of what is it needed for on the trail. So work on getting more athletic through a good mobility and strength training program. It's even more important for us as 40 plus riders, because we are starting to lose mobility and strength at a much greater rate. When we're younger, it sticks around, right? And as you get older, it starts to go away. So you're putting yourself in even more behind the eight ball if you're not doing something to improve your mobility and strength off of the bike. Okay, and so do that, and then put yourself in a strong, balanced position on the bike through proper equipment choices. So again, getting a bike that fits you well, a bike that has handlebars that are a good width for you. Again, if you need advice on how to do that, there's a video that I shot called "Your Handlebars Are Too Wide," a case study. So you can go check that out, and I show you the method that I use for helping people determine what their optimal handlebar width is, and then also getting into a midfoot position on your bike. And so I will say this is where I have a shameless plug for the Catalyst pedals, which is the pedal that I invented to optimize the midfoot position. The reason that it is as long as it is because it allows you to actually balance the front and back of the foot and create that balanced midfoot position that optimizes your ability to stay balanced and move on the bike. But if you have a athletic, mobile, strong body, and you put yourself in a balanced position on the bike through proper equipment choices, that's when you're going to really be able to figure out how to ride your bike properly. And your body's going to adapt and learn from the movement challenges that it encounters on the trail, instead of trying to find compromises based on its unbalanced position that it may find itself in. So only at that point can you really benefit from skills training advice. But even then, it doesn't matter if it violates, the skills training advice is still not going to be the best thing for you if it violates some basic movement principle along the way. So if someone's telling you to, that you, again, like need more weight, get on the balls of your feet, right? Like that would be not optimal skills advice based on movement principles. But again, make sure that you're not putting the cart before the horse when it comes to improving your skills, that you have yourself set up for success if you're going to go down that route. And I think every rider should, because the better your skills are, the safer you are, the more fun you're going to have, the higher performance levels are going to be. And so it's definitely an important part of getting the most out of mountain biking. But again, just don't get caught up in the dogma that surrounds it sometimes, especially around like optimal body position and stuff like that. So like I mentioned earlier, I believe the best way to approach improving your riding skills is to look at how the human body moves, and then improve your movement off the bike, and then apply that better movement to the bike. So if you're interested in learning more about this, I guess, theory of mountain bike skills training, I have a manual I put together called the Underground Skills Training Manual. You can get a free copy of it. It's something I make available to free for people. And so again, in it, I break down the core skills that you need on the bike, and then show you what the movement patterns are, how to improve those things off the bike, and then how to apply them to the bike. And so I think it even has like a skills training plan to kind of help you digest everything. There's a lot of info in there, but it's start with this skill here and then move to this skill. So it's a systematic plan for helping you layer your skills on top of each other so that you can have the best foundation and skills possible, in my opinion. So, but again, there's a link in the description to that for this podcast if you want to check that out. So if you have any questions about this subject, please let me know. I'm always happy to help. And so, yeah, anything I can do to help you out with riding, just let me know. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this podcast, and I will talk to everybody next time.